Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd really appreciate your comment. It helps me understand if you enjoyed the story and how I can improve in future ones. I was rinsing out a pan when she said it like weather. Should have taken my friend's advice. The faucet ran, the kitchen light hummed, and her phone sat face down on the counter like it had been all evening, lit up now and then by messages she pretended not to see. My name is Grant Mercer. I'm 39, operations lead at a freight hub in Phoenix. Sunday night used to mean leftovers, early bed, and a clean start for Monday. Tonight it felt like a shift change in my own house. One team clocking out, the next one never showing up. I've heard plenty of lines from her circle over the last year, but that one was new in its honesty. No performance or build-up, just a drop in. The girls were right, and I was wrong by existing the way I do, steady, predictable, responsible. Their advice has a tone to it I've learned to recognize. It comes pre-packaged with buzzwords and a laugh that's just loud enough to dare you to challenge it. I don't challenge much these days. I take inventory. The drift started months ago when late yoga became late wine, and late wine became later stories that didn't add up. She used to text me when she left the office. Lately she texts the group chat and leaves me a ... and a shrug when she gets home. Privacy is one thing. Being treated like a roommate who pays more than half is another. There's a kind of confidence that comes from committees. I watched it grow in her. A sentence that used to start with "I feel" started to start with "the girls think." Their credentials are mostly survival. Divorces wrapped in inspirational captions and reposted quotes about freedom that sound like marketing slogans. I don't say that out loud. I just notice how often my wife tries on their sentences and how quickly those sentences fit. She's told me that with her eyebrows more than once. My jokes are dry. My clothes are practical. My idea of a Good Friday is a home-cooked meal and 8 hours of sleep. I lift at 5. I check the day's lanes before 7. And if a storm hits Flagstaff, I can tell you where the trucks will stack by noon. The girls don't want forecasts. They want lightning. She started wanting it too. There's a line you cross when inside jokes go missing. We used to have a shorthand. One glance across a room, and we were on the same page. Lately the page kept turning without me. She laughed at stories from women I only ever meet in photos, and my laughter felt late to the punchline. A house can keep its furniture and still lose its voice. The frames are still on the wall. The warmth is unplugged. I tried neutral questions first, not interrogations. Where are you headed? When will you be back? Do you want me to save you dinner? She answered like a politician, long sentences without facts. Don't wait up. It depends. Stop making everything heavy. She used to tell me she loved the way I made plans. Lately, she told me plans are a cage. I stopped making them for her. I kept them for me. The day I realized I'd become a reference point instead of a partner was a Wednesday, 3 weeks back. She said I needed to expand socially. I said I didn't mind small circles. They fit better. She waved it off like I was confessing to a defect. There's a little sting in that kind of dismissal, but it fades fast if you pay attention to what it teaches you. People who love you may still outgrow the shape they made with you. People who respect you don't ask you to shrink to keep them. Tonight's sentence, the friend's advice, landed like a final invoice. I turned off the faucet, set the pan in the rack, and wiped my hands on a towel that still smelled like the detergent she likes. She stood 3 feet away in a dress I hadn't seen before, hair done for somewhere else, eyes sliding past me to the corner where her phone kept lighting up. If it was a test, I'd already failed by not performing. If it was a truth, I'd already heard enough to mark it paid. I didn't ask which friend. It doesn't matter who said the words first when the person you love decides to repeat them like vows from a different wedding. I just nodded. In logistics, you learn the difference between a delay and a reroute. One keeps you waiting. The other changes your destination. I felt the map flip in my head and watched myself, quietly, start to redraw the route. I cleaned the counter. I stacked the mail by category. It sounds small, but small is where I live when big things go sideways. A man can be steady without being stuck. I put my gym bag by the door for the morning and moved my wallet and keys to the guest room dresser without thinking about it too much. A simple mental note followed. Call the bank tomorrow, because I like knowing what's where. It's not revenge. She asked if I was going to say anything. I said I heard her. The weight in the room shifted a degree. She wanted a debate to prove she was right about me controlling everything. I gave her a Sunday night with clean countertops and a man who wouldn't chase his own reputation around the kitchen. The group chat pinged again. She didn't pick up her phone. Neither did I. She left a few minutes later with a kiss on the air and a promise to be back, not late. I stood at the sink and listened to the quiet she left behind. It was honest. Honesty feels colder than comfort in the first hour. It warms up when it stops asking you to pretend. I thought about the first time we met. How she said, "I made the world feel safe." I can do that for a family. I can't do it for a committee. Safety starts to look like boredom when you're searching for noise. The girls have noise for days. They stream it. They curate it. They clap for it. It's not my job to sell them silence. It is my job to stop paying for it. If there's a bright spot to nights like this, it's that you find the edges of yourself again. The parts that got soft from negotiating everything. The parts that got quiet from explaining the obvious. I don't need an audience to know what I'm worth. My worth shows up at 4:58 when the alarm goes off and my feet hit the floor. It shows up when a driver calls from Holbrook and I can get him rolling again in 10 minutes. It shows up when no one is watching and the numbers still line up. She may come home at midnight with the same sentence sharpened, or she may come home at 2 with a new one she likes better. Either way, I'm done holding breath for weather reports from people who don't live in our house. The vows we made didn't include a line item for outside consultants. If she wants their map, I won't argue cartography. I'll check my fuel, set my course, and go. I'm not confused. Something's off, and not by an inch. Men like me don't slam doors. We mark exits in our head and walk toward them when the time is right. Tonight was the mark. I slid the towel back on the handle, turned off the humming light, and let the kitchen go dark. The house creaked the way old wood does when temperatures shift. Structures announce their changes. People do, too. She already made hers. I heard it. And for the first time in a long while, I believed myself when I said, "Noted." The morning after that comment about her friends hung in the kitchen like smoke that wouldn't clear. She moved through the house with this new choreography, quick, clipped, performative, like she wanted me to notice how little she cared that I'd noticed. Coffee with the mug clinking hard on the counter. Phone face down, but lit up every 30 seconds. A sigh that was a sigh that said, "I'm already halfway out the door." I didn't bite. I rinsed my cup, tied my shoes, and asked the one thing worth asking. "What's going on?" Not a plea. A status check. She shrugged so hard it looked practiced. "I just need more than this." The word "this" swung between us like a porch light in wind. Our routines, our private jokes, our years. Funny how a single syllable can erase a marriage. Her group chat started bleeding into the room. I could hear their phrases come out in her voice. I settled, self-actualize, romanticize stability. Like she'd downloaded a new vocabulary overnight. At lunch, my phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Of all people, she's feeling boxed in. Give her time. It would have been almost sweet if it hadn't sounded like a verdict. A few minutes later, a mutual friend DM'd me a screenshot of a story. My wife out at a patio bar, captioned, "Choosing myself." The clinking glass emoji lined up like ammunition. I put the phone face down and finished my sandwich in silence. By Thursday, the fights weren't fights anymore. They were pop quizzes I was meant to fail. She picked at small threads and waited for me to yank back. I didn't. Walking out the door, she said, "You never supported my dreams." I reminded her, calmly, that I'd sat through every vendor call when she launched the pop-up, drove the U-Haul myself, and spent Saturdays steaming clothes for a brand event because the steamer burned her hand once and the memory stuck. She blinked, recalibrated, and pivoted to a new script. That's not the point. The point is I've changed. She said it like a magic password that unlocks new rules. It's not a password, it's a statement. Good to know, I said. Then I asked the disallowed question gently, like handing someone a glass of water. Is there someone else? She laughed too fast, the ugly kind of laugh that doesn't touch the eyes. You always need a villain. There it was, another phrase from the committee. I let the silence do the work and picked up my keys. The pressure moved public. Friday night, we were at a couple's birthday dinner, 10 of us at a long table. She arrived late, louder than usual, and took a seat 2 down from me. Everyone noticed the gap. A toast started, and right in the middle of it she leaned toward the girls and said, not quietly at all, "This city is filled with men who actually get it." No one laughed. Everyone pretended not to hear. The birthday girl stared hard at the candle. When the cake was cut, one of her friends, one of the advisors, found her way next to me and asked if I was good. The way people ask a wounded animal if it plans to bite. I told her I was fine, And I meant it. Because I had finally understood the point of all this theater. They were trying to train me to blow up. If I did, they could call me controlling, unstable, dangerous. If I stayed still, the air itself would eventually indict the performance. Small sabotages followed. She accidentally double-booked our weekend with a girl's day and her co-worker's housewarming. She left our joint card at a salon and texted me to just Zelle the tip. She forgot rent was due, even though it's auto-debited, and then asked why the savings had dipped since spring. Each move was a tap on the glass, watching for cracks. I changed nothing in my face. I made 2 changes behind it. I moved discretionary spending to my personal account and took photos of every receipt I'd paid for on her behalf in the last 6 months. Because reality matters when people start reciting lines. 2 of her friends ramped up their cameos. One sent me a long paragraph about respecting her process, which, translated, meant disappear until we finished remodeling her story. Another posted a meme about men who hinder growth and tagged 5 women, including my wife. I didn't respond to either. The next conversation happened on a Tuesday, over takeout she'd treated to using my card. She stood by the sink, arms folded, and announced she needed a trial separation. The line was so clean I almost applauded. Trial separation. A demo version of single. She wanted me to agree, vacate, and fund the experiment. I kept my voice even. If you need space, take it. But I won't finance disrespect. Separate means separate. Money, logistics, and communication. Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time I saw a flicker of calculation fail. She wasn't expecting boundaries. She wanted me to scramble or sulk. I did neither. I went to the hall closet and set a spare suitcase on the floor and said, if you're leaving for a while, pack what you need so we don't repeat this conversation next week. She stared at the suitcase like it had spoken. The group chat heat turned to smoke alarms. Little stories started appearing in our circle, bits of gossip about me being rigid, me isolating her. A cousin I like called to ask if we were okay. She'd heard a version where I'd forbidden my wife from seeing friends. Interesting, I said. Considering they were in our living room last weekend till 1 a.m., he sighed the sigh of a man who's watched something like this before and told me he was around if I needed anything. That's the part none of her advisors anticipated. How steady healthy men get when the game begins. We don't sharpen knives. We build calendars and collect facts. A midpoint shift came quietly, midweek. One of the girls, the least loud one, sent me a message at 11:07 p.m. I don't co-sign all of this. Just a crack in the choir. I thanked her once and left it alone. You don't crowd a conscience. What I didn't leave alone were the details. I pulled bank statements, screenshot Venmo history, and exported the photo roll timestamps from 3 weekends she'd claimed were work events. I wasn't hunting for scandal. I was auditing narrative. If you're going to tell a story about me, you don't get to remove the parts where I paid the invoices, drove the late-night airport pickups, and made sure the lights stayed on while you tried on liberation like a new coat. I also printed the text where she'd typed. I should have listened to them from the start, because it told the truth in a way everything else tried to hide. This wasn't revelation, it was coaching. A Saturday evening celebration of growth at a wine bar, couples welcome, share your 90-day reset. The name made me laugh. It also solved my venue problem. I RSVP'd yes. When my wife mentioned it, testing, I nodded like we were discussing weather. Sounds fine. She waited for the tantrum that would never come, then floated a final provocation. Maybe you should just skip it. It might be uncomfortable for you. I smiled because she finally said something true. Discomfort is the tax you pay when you choose clarity. I told her I'd be there on time. That week ended the way these weeks do, with her staging a smaller scene to see if my composure had an off switch. She came home later than late and dropped her overnight bag where my boots go. No explanation, just the soft thud of entitlement. I picked up the bag, set it gently by the door, and turned off the hall light. She watched me like a referee searching for a foul. I gave her nothing. By then the pressure had stopped building and started consolidating. The storylines were set, the cast assembled, the date on the calendar circled. I went to the barber shop, cleaned up my suit, tightened every loose screw in my life that I'd left rattling because I believed comfort meant safety. Saturday would not be an explosion, it would be a presentation. Calm voice. Short sentences. Facts on paper. I'd make my one statement, the same way a surgeon makes one cut. If her friends wanted a show, They'd get something else instead. The truth with the lights fully on. Calm settled in like a locked-in forecast. Not anger. Just a clear map with a few pins on it. Lawyer, bank, storage, brunch. I woke up before sunrise, brewed coffee, and opened a fresh document titled Exit Plan. Every step had one rule attached to it: no scenes. If a move couldn't be made clean, quiet, and final, it didn't belong on my list. First, the money. I removed authorized users from every card, closed the store accounts her friends had used just this once, and paused the trio of autopays that had somehow become permanent: salon membership, boutique subscription, shared ride credits. Not punishment. The moment she told me she should have taken her friend's advice, she opted out of the life those benefits came with. The spreadsheet I kept for our budget became a ledger of separation. Her recurring costs, my recurring costs, the split of anything joint. At the bottom, a line in bold: no new charges without written agreement. I copied my lawyer on it. Paper trails are the opposite of drama. Then the ring. I slid it off, set it on the counter, and watched the little circle of metal decide its own balance. I didn't throw it. Just took a photo for the records and sealed it in a padded envelope marked return of property with the date. There's a finality in documentation that shouting never achieves. Public exposure required precision. Not a blast on social media. Facts, delivered to the exact people who kept inserting themselves into my marriage. I drafted one email, subject line: granting the space you requested. For bullet points, each a sentence. You said you need distance to think. Agreed, effective today. I'll be in the short-term rental through the end of the month while we separate accounts and responsibilities. Joint benefits are suspended until terms are settled. I wish you clarity. Attached, copies of payments I'd made for her girls' weekends, a simple calendar invite labeled keys and essentials pickup, and a neutral separation timeline my lawyer had reviewed. CC, her mother, her father, and, yes, the 3 friends who were so concerned with my wife's freedom. Not spite. Audit trail. By mid-morning, my phone started lighting up. A string of call me messages from numbers that usually sent me memes and champagne boomerangs. I stayed with the plan. No back and forths. I moved the last of my clothes to the rental, folded the life I actually needed into one closet, and dropped her labeled boxes at the storage unit listed on the invite. New key, new code, new routine. Quiet. The hook needed a stage, and they'd already chosen one. Sunday brunch for a birthday in their group. The same crowd that had been performing our marriage for an audience. I wasn't invited, at least not directly, but her mother texted me the place and time like a weather alert. Consider stopping by for 10 minutes with your update. If you want. I read it twice. 10 minutes would be more than enough. I arrived on time, not a second early. Nice shirt, clean shave, no ring. The table was a row of sunglasses and bottomless mimosas. She looked startled, then angry, then something else that didn't have a name. I didn't sit. No warm-up lines. I placed the envelope on the table, set the key on top, and kept my voice level. Here are the logistics we discussed. I'll be out of the house for the next 3 weeks. Accounts are separated. Your pickup window's in the invite. I slid the second envelope, return of property, toward her and let it rest beside her water glass. Her friends stared at the ring through the paper like it could burn a hole. One of them smirked, rehearsed confidence faltering. So you're really doing this? You're not even going to try? No taglines. I tapped the attachment list on my phone screen and let the facts do the work. Your advice was loud enough the first time. She made a choice. I'm honoring it. The table went quiet in the way only truth manages. I thanked the server for refilling my water, wished the birthday girl a good year, and turned to leave. Mid-step, I took one last clean swing: public exposure. I placed a small stack of printed receipts in front of the friend who always liked to order for the table and put it on my tab. Weekend trips, group dinners, Ubers home. A yellow highlighter marked the total with an arrow to the note. Settled, effective today. You're free of me. She went pale. The others looked at each other like the stage lights had just flipped on. Sometimes revenge is simply letting people see the actual bill. By evening, the group chat that had once treated me like a silent participant was full of frantic messages I didn't read. In the rental, I set new emergency contacts, updated my will, booked therapy, and sent a simple message to my boss confirming I'd be fully remote for a few weeks while I resettled. Everywhere I could choose stability, I chose it. Because I was saving energy. I took the dog for a long walk past the same streets I used to jog at dawn and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Internal quiet that didn't ask for permission. She tried one last volley that night. A photo of the ring in her palm, captioned, "This is what you wanted, right?" I let the message sit until the blue light of the screen felt as irrelevant as a billboard. Then I archived it. No rage. Silence is not surrender when it's deliberate. It's a border that enforces itself. The next morning, I posted one line to the couple's group thread that included both our families and a few mutuals, the only public space that mattered. "We're separating. Please reach out to us individually with practical support only." That was all. No footnotes. Within an hour, her aunt texted me a casserole pickup offer, and her boss sent a short note saying HR would route her benefits directly. When you remove theater, people default to function. It's amazing how fast the sideshows vanish once there's nothing to feed on. I kept the rest of my day routine. Gym, groceries for one, a new set of towels that didn't carry old arguments in their threads. My lawyer emailed the first draft of the separation agreement with a checklist. I finished it before lunch, sent it back, and read the only book that had sat untouched on our nightstand for a year. By late afternoon, the sun pushed a hard line of light across the rental's floor, and I realized the feeling in my chest wasn't victory. It was relief. Public exposure wasn't about ruining her. It was about ending the lie cleanly enough that everyone who'd been performing it had to stop. The revenge, if it counted as that, lived in the math, showing the real costs of the life my effort made easy. They could still toast to freedom. They just couldn't toast on my tab. I didn't walk away to win anything. I walked away because I was done playing a game that rewarded me for losing myself. The map in my head had fewer pins now. Lawyer, bank, storage, all checked. The morning after the rooftop, I woke up rested for the first time in months. No replaying arguments or second-guessing my choices. Coffee tasted like coffee again. My phone lit up on the counter while I shaved. Missed calls, voice notes, a dozen texts stacked on top of each other like a Jenga tower begging to fall. I let them stack. Boundaries don't argue. They stand. By 9:12 a.m., the group chat she'd weaponized against our marriage was a bonfire. Screenshots of my timeline from the party had made their way around. The short, factual statement I'd read, dates, receipts, the way her friends had coached the trial separation script, wasn't dramatic on video. It was boring. That's the part that hurt them. Boring truth doesn't give you anything to fight. One of the boyfriends, Evan, texted me separately. "Appreciate the clarity, man." I returned the ring. I stared at the screen for a second, then put the phone face down. I wasn't collecting trophies. I just didn't want to carry someone else's lies anymore. She tried the first lever at 10:03, seduction as apology. Silk robe, soft voice, the kind of performance that had worked back when I was still trying to keep the boat steady by myself. I opened the bedroom door, stepped past her to the hall, and handed her a single sheet of paper. Inventory of personal items I'd boxed, dates for the mediator, the attorney's contact at the bottom. "Use the email," I said, steady. Not cruel, just done. The robe closed a little tighter. The performance lost its script. At lunch, guilt arrived dressed as nostalgia. Old photos pinged my phone. The cabin trip, the diner at 2 a.m., her head on my shoulder on a Tuesday that used to feel like hours. "We were good," the caption read. I let the phone vibrate on the table while I ate. We had been good. And then she outsourced our vows to a committee. Love is work. Outsourcing just gives you invoices. By mid-afternoon, the girls who had advised her were in damage control. One DM'd that my timeline had been misleading without a single correction attached. Another posted a story about male fragility that stayed up for 20 minutes before her comments forced it down. Their boyfriends were asking questions they couldn't deflect with affirmations and shared memes. It's harder to play victim when the dates line up. Financial consequences quietly clicked into place. The joint card died at 4:17 p.m. on a Sephora order. The phone lit up. "Why would you do this to me?" I didn't. She did this to herself when she made me a prop. I'd been generous for a long time. Boundaries aren't revenge, they're accounting. Day 2 brought blame. She'd practiced it. "You humiliated me. You blindsided me. You made me look crazy in front of everyone." I didn't reply. She wanted a fight. I gave her a mirror, silence that reflected her words straight back. When she realized I wasn't playing tug of war, she dropped the rope for a few hours and tried a new strategy. We can fix this if you delete that video. Control dressed as compromise. No. By the end of the week, the quiet fallout had spread. The friend who'd pushed her hardest lost her apartment cosign when her father watched the rooftop clip and decided he was done underwriting chaos. Another had her boyfriend show up at my gym, awkward and apologetic. He wasn't there to talk to me. He just needed somewhere to look like a man with a plan. I spotted his sets and said nothing. Men don't need speeches to learn. We need friction. She tried panic next. I can't get into the streaming. I can't access the miles. The car insurance is changing? Yes. I moved what was mine to my name and returned what was hers to her hands. Adulting, the unglamorous part. She'd loved the word independence when it floated like a balloon over a girl's dinner. It felt heavier when it came with premiums and passwords. Saturday, she arrived at my place with a folder of printed apologies, actual paper, highlighted, the way she studies when she wants an outcome guaranteed. She spoke softly about pressure and loneliness and how the girls had gotten into her head. I let her finish. Then I handed her my own folder. The dates she'd said space. The weekend she vanished without a text. The Wednesday she told me I was lucky. And the Thursday, she posted choose yourself from a bar stool. I'm not angry, I said. Anger would mean I'm still in it. I'm just finished. She wiped her eyes and asked if we could at least pause the separation optics so people would stop talking. Optics. There it was, the thing she could not say. I walked her to the elevator. We stood quietly while the floor numbers blinked down. She stepped in, turned, and the doors met like a period at the end of a sentence that didn't need extra words. The girls dissolved in slow motion. Brunch photos got thinner. Captions shifted from "men are the problem" to quotes about healing in private. 2 of them blocked me, which made me laugh in a way that felt like closure. Blocking a mirror doesn't change your reflection. Meanwhile, my life got simpler. I slept, lifted, worked, ate. The house stayed clean because I was the only one making a mess. Peace is loud when you haven't heard it in a while. She tried one more time. An ambush at my office lobby. Eyes red, voice shaking. Security glanced at me. I shook my head. We walked outside. She asked if there was anything she could do to win back respect. I told her respect isn't a coupon you redeem after a sale ends. It's daily payment. Overdue accounts get closed. She cried for real then. Not performative tears, but the kind that show up when options run out. I put a hand on the rail between us. Not touching her. Just giving both of us a line. Talk to the mediator, I said. It's the only person I'm taking calls from. She nodded, small. The wind lifted a piece of her hair, and for a second I remembered the first week we moved in together, boxes everywhere, her asleep on the rug, and me carrying her to bed. Memory is stubborn. It comes back even when you've stopped inviting it in. I let it pass. By week 3, truth had done what truth always does. It settled into the room and made itself comfortable. People stopped asking for updates because boredom won. There were no messy reconciliations. Just a woman adjusting to the life she said she wanted, and a man who believed her. Her friends didn't come around as often. It turns out freedom feels less like champagne when the bill hits the table. I kept moving. New lease signed. Gym key on a fresh ring. Small place with good light and quiet streets. I changed my emergency contacts and didn't tell anyone but my sister. I took my name off the things that weren't mine and put it on the things that were. That's all consequence is, really. Every story has a hinge. Ours swung on a sentence she spoke with other people's voices in it. Mine closes here, softly, without slamming. Next comes something simpler than victory and harder than revenge. A life that doesn't ask for permission to be respected. Calm, clean edges. That's what the end felt like. No fireworks. Just a man who knows his name, age, and boundaries. I'm Jonah Whitfield, 38, operations manager, and by the time the judge stamped the decree, I'd already been living like a man who didn't negotiate his own worth. The ring had been off for weeks. Bank accounts separated, lease on the new place signed, spare key returned. I'd moved the last box myself at sunrise, left the door soft closed behind me, and drove to the office with the window cracked. Quiet air. Performances always look clumsy under good lighting. Screenshots have a way of straightening backs and clearing throats. The ones who urged her to test me, to level up, to feel single again, discovered that group chats don't come with legal privilege or moral insulation. Bosses, parents, and partners don't enjoy waking up to evidence their names were props in someone else's private theater. I posted facts once, then shut it down. A single, steady statement, and the room got very quiet. It turns out drama dies without an audience. What followed was predictable in form, if not in timing. The panic texts. The late-night voicemails where her voice found an old softness and tried to live there again. Nostalgia weaponized as strategy. Photos she found. Songs we used to play. The restaurant where we once split one dessert and pretended we weren't still hungry. Then the stronger stuff. Blame dressed as insight. Guilt as duty. We're better than this, spoken like a command. My response stayed the same. Everything through counsel. She could send any future performance to my attorney's inbox. The silence taught its own lesson. Men talk about closure like it's a door someone else opens for you. Mine was a list on a yellow pad. Emergency contacts changed. Insurance beneficiaries updated. Gym at 6, even on bad sleep. Groceries in the apartment that were mine by choice, not compromise. A watch repaired. The guitar I'd kept under the bed restrung and played until my fingers stung. It's amazing what grows when you pull the weeds of negotiation out by the roots. The first morning I woke up alone in the new place. I brewed coffee and didn't wonder if it was strong enough for someone else's taste. It hit exactly how I like it. I took that as a sign. The fallout around her was quieter than she expected and louder than she could manage. Her best talker ghosted when the receipts got uncomfortable at work. The married friend who traded me eye rolls at gatherings texted me an apology, so cautious it felt like walking on bubble wrap. I didn't respond. Her mother sent a message through my sister that said I'd been decent. I forwarded it to my counsel with the rest and went back to tightening a cabinet hinge in the kitchen. The hinge was honest. Turn right, it tightens. Turn left, it loosens. No argument. There was one encounter in public. Grocer on 9th. I was picking up limes and eggs and a small steak I'd marinate myself. She turned the corner with an empty basket and the look people get when they realize memory doesn't have a map. She started with my name like it was a password. I nodded. She stood too close to the line that once meant home and whispered how none of it was supposed to go this far. The word supposed hovered between the cilantro and the receipts. I said exactly 14 words. Respect is not negotiable. We tried negotiating it. Look where that got us. Then I moved my cart. It wasn't unkind. It was adult. Law favors the prepared. The separation agreement read like a mirror. Simple, accurate, plain. She kept the furniture she'd chosen to impress women who never came over. I kept my savings, my tools. There was no victory lap, just a Tuesday where I left the courthouse and changed the oil in my car because that was the next right thing. My attorney asked if I wanted to pursue a public statement. I told him the public had already heard from me once, and that's enough. Too much truth becomes theater if you keep selling tickets. People assume revenge is a loud sport. It isn't. It's a man who returns to himself so completely that anyone who bet against his center feels foolish, in private, with no one to applaud. Her group tried to regroup. 2 of them made their pages private. One took a detox from social media and then returned with quotes about healing that sounded like stitched-on patches over a fabric that had shrunk in the wash. I won't pretend I didn't think of her. The mind replays what the heart finally refuses to subsidize. Some evenings, even in a better chair, you remember a laugh that belonged to a time before everyone discovered their inner PR team. But that's all it was, memory. And memory can't subpoena you. I let the thought pass. The way you let traffic pass before making a clean left turn. Patience keeps dents off fenders and off futures. I made small rules and kept them. I adopted a dog from the shelter, an older mutt with a stubborn limp and eyes that understood that dignity is a posture first. We walked every morning, rain or shine, and the neighborhood learned my name the way men should be learned, by presence, not rumor. Word reached me that she moved across town into a place that photographs better than it feels. The friend who once said I was lucky to have her now avoids eye contact at the farmer's market. I hear they still meet, just fewer of them, and the laughter lands short. That's not my story anymore. The only part of it that concerns me is the quiet understanding I earned. You cannot outsource your self-respect and hope it appreciates. On the day the last document arrived, I stacked it beneath the others, opened the window, and let the city do what it does, carry sounds I don't need to manage. I texted my brother a single line. Done right. He sent back a thumbs up and a beer emoji, and that was the ceremony. I grilled that small steak, squeezed the lime, and ate at my counter without compulsively checking a door I no longer owned. She called once more, a voicemail that began with my name and ended with the kind of silence that begs you to fill it. I didn't. I saved it, then deleted it, then emptied the folder where deleted things pretend they might still matter. There's a kind of mercy in not answering a question you know the other person can't afford to hear honestly. I won't dress it up. I'm not happier because she lost. I'm clearer because I stopped losing myself. If there's a lesson here, it's blunt and it's boring. That's how real lessons arrive. Respect is not negotiable. Offer it. Require it. Keep walking when it's withheld. Everything else is noise. The roster she wanted to join? She's in it now. Single. Bitter by choice or by habit. That's not my assignment to grade. Alone in the way people get when the crowd finally goes home and the mirror stops flattering. As for me, I've got a dog that limps in a guitar with new strings, a hinge that doesn't squeak, and a life that fits. No audience. No test. Just that quiet air through a cracked window and a man who kept his promise to himself.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.